Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. Today, very excited to be checking out Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe from Steve Jackson Games. This is for 3 to 6 players, taking about 1 to 2 hours to play. It's for ages, I'd say about 11 and plus. And in Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe, you're going to be playing your typical game of Munchkin, but with a steampunk flavor on it. Now, I'm a fan of Munchkin, but I hate steampunk. So what are my thoughts on this? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what's inside of Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe. First and foremost, we got a handy dandy rule booklet. It's 3 pages, double-sided, full color. It's got pictures, humorous pictures. It's got a good deal of humor in there. It's a funny rule booklet compared to other rule booklets, at least. It's a very well done rule booklet because, you know, this is like their 15th expansion to this, so they have it down pat. So big thumbs up on the rule booklet. So before we get started, I do want to mention that this is Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe. Whenever you see Deluxe on the cover of a Munchkin game, that means you're going to get the board. That's about the only difference. Oh, and also the little pawns. So that is, in case you were wondering what the difference is between the standard Munchkin and the Munchkin Deluxe versions. So I'm going to be going over how you play Munchkin, but I also did a review of Munchkin Deluxe, where I went super in-depth on how the gameplay works. I'll be sure to post a link somewhere in here. If you're looking for more in-depth on how the gameplay works, be sure to click on that. I'm going to cover it very briefly, but mostly just go over how this is different, the different classes for if you're looking at this as an expansion, because I feel like a lot of people probably want to know what the different classes are that are included in this game. So we'll go over the components, we'll get a little bit into the gameplay. So first and foremost, you're going to get the nice distinctive little board going from 1 to 10, because in this game you're going to try and level yourself from level 1 to level 10. If you can do that, you'll be the winner of the game. Next, you're going to get cards, cards, and more cards. You're going to have treasure cards, and you are going to have door cards. There's nothing really different here from other versions of Munchkins, except for something called gear cards. There'll be gear monsters, gear equipment, and it is a slight nuisance. I might mention that later on the pros and the cons. They actually get addressed in the rule booklet, where it doesn't say gear monster on the card necessarily. When you look at it, it will actually just say monster, and you will have to look to see if there's a gear on the monster. It sounds like a really big deal. It's not, but it is a slight annoyance. Continuing on, where you're going to have your standard D6 button. It's going to have the fancy little Munchkin guy symbolizing the 1 as per regular. Then you're going to have a whole bunch of character pawns that you're going to be able to play with. And they come with 12 of these. Yes, that seems insane, and it kind of is. Also, they have the 12 little standees. I feel like that's way too many. I feel like they could have got by with 6. But essentially, you'll be able to be whatever color you want, and also male or female. And as per normal Munchkin, throughout this game, you might change sexes. So how does the gameplay work? Well, when you first start the game, you're going to get 4 door cards, which will have various different things on them. Some will have monsters, some will have curses, which you can play on your other people, or it might play on you. Some will have classes, and we'll get more into the classes a little bit later. As you can see, it all has all the distinctive Munchkin artwork. Some will have equipment. There's a monster right there, the human Eucalyptus, +4 against females. Then when you get over here to the treasure, it's all going to be good things. You might have, you know, equipment, like here's armor, big armor, or the 4th Armored Division Miniaturized. This is going to help either help or hurt other people when they're facing monsters, or when you're facing monsters, a pipe. And one thing I want to mention on these that's one way that you can potentially level up in addition to defeating monsters. If you sell things for 1,000 gold, you will also be able to level up. So even if you can't use an equipment for one reason or another, you can potentially sell it and level up your character, because how many points you have when you're attacking a monster is going to be how much armor you have in front of you and weapons and stuff like that, and also what level you are. So if you have like +6 in armor and weapons and you are at level 3, you have 9 power. And that's how much power you are taking against a monster. So those are the components you're getting in the game. We'll go a little bit to the gameplay. So first and foremost, when you start up the game, you're going to be dealt 4 door cards and 4 treasure cards. Let's see what we've got here. We'll just take a look real quick. So we got a curse. We'll be able to play that a little bit later. An officer. Oh, nice. So we have a class. Another curse. We have a monster, Ada Lovelace. I believe that's a reference to, what is it? Movie, the Will Smith movie. We have, Martini Henry Rifle, +5 bonus, but only usable by the Tycoon, and unfortunately, we only have the officers. That's not going to help us, but it is 700 pieces gold, so that's pretty useful. And then Dr. Oglethorpe's Concentrated Steak Drops, a cow in every cupful. God, I love the humor in this game. Used during any combat, +4 to each Munchkin in the fight. Usable only once. So essentially, you could use that on yourself, and if you had someone helping you fight off a monster, that could be +8, which could be very useful. And then we have another thing usable by officers. Oh, this one is good. This is a brass hat. It's going to give us a +4 bonus. If you lose this item while wearing it, you also lose a level. Ooh, not so good, but still not a bad thing. So you're going to play down whatever you can play down in front of you. So for this instance, we would have the officer and the brass hat. So our base power is actually going to be 5 when we first start the game, and then we can start to play the game. And there's going to be 3 main things you are going to do on your turn. First one is you are going to kick open the door. What does that mean? Well, you're looking for monsters. You're just going to kick open the door and see what happens, and looky there. We have a level 2 Aether Bunny. If Easter is or was this month, this bunny gets a +10 bonus. So definitely some humor there. And actually, this could be impacted by what time of year it is. Right now, however, when I'm filming this, this is October. So this is only a level 2. So all I would need to defeat this monster is 2 points, 2 attack. So I have 1 here, I have 4 over here, so I have 5, so I can successfully take care of this monster if no one else decides to bump it up. If I defeat the monster, I'm going to gain 1 level, so I go up 1 on the level track, and oh, that's not supposed to pop out. I'd gain 1 on the level track, and then I would also gain 1 treasure card that I could put in my hand. Now, what other people could potentially do are they could strengthen the monster. So they could say, oh, I'm going to add +5 to this monster. So now let's just pretend it's at a 7. So I only have 5. So I'm in trouble. So what I can do is I can either concede and try and run away, where normally what will happen is if you can't successfully run away, bad stuff will happen to you. Rabbit Punch, discard 2 cards, and each card will have bad stuff, and it will depend on the monster. Some will be really, really bad, like lose 2 levels. This one's not terrible. You just lose a couple cards, which isn't the end of the world because we probably have to discard down charity-wise a little bit later, but I'll get more into that in a second. So now we've got this bunny. He's level 7. I've only got 5. So what I could do is I could potentially call on someone else for help. I could say, all right, does anyone else want to help me out? And you know what? If you help me out, I will give you the treasure. Because essentially, I'm like, all right, you can have the treasure, but I'm going to gain the level, and I'm going to make it so that I'm not going to have to discard 2 cards. So someone else could say, all right, I have a power of 5, I will join you. So we'd merge our power together, we'd defeat the bunny, that other player would get the treasure, and then I would get the level, and I would move upward. And then that would be the end of my turn if I had enough cards. If I had less than 5 cards. If I didn't, I would have to do what's called a charity action, which is where I give X amount of cards to the player on the lowest level, which in this case would be 3 other people. But we're not really going to go into that. It's pretty self-explanatory when you get in the situation. Now, what would happen if I didn't get a monster? So let's see what happens. Let's say we go back to flipping the door, and I flip this over. And this is a obvious weak point -10 to monster. So first and foremost, I would get to keep this, which would be fantastic. I would put that in my hand. And now I have 2 options. I can either A, look for trouble, which means I play down a monster to face, so I might play this level 4, and then face against this Ada Lovelace, or B, you can loot the room, which just means you take the top card of the deck, no one gets to see it, and that would be the end of your turn until you have to discard potentially because of the charity phase. But anywho, you're going to continue to do that until someone gets to level 10. Whoever is the first person to get to level 10 is going to be the winner of Munchkin Steampunk. So let's get down to those curious about adding this as an expansion. So what are you going to get? Obviously, you got Super Munchkin card. That's just going to let you have 2 classes. So we'll start off with the Tycoon, Robber Baron. At any time except during combat, you may take an item from the top of the discard stack by discarding an item of equal or greater value. Incredibly useful. Them what has gets. Once per turn, when you go up a level, draw a face-up treasure. Whenever you lose a level, discard a card. That's also incredibly useful as well. Officer, voice of command. When you are in combat and a new monster joins the fight, you may roll the die. On a 5 or 6, your shout scares it into the discard pile, granting no treasure or levels. Tactical skill, you have a +1 to run away. Now, this one doesn't sound too terribly useful because wandering monsters are not typically unplayed. They'll get played from time to time. However, this is one of the versions of Munchkin which have the Undead Rule, which is a little... I hate when they add new rules to the game, but this one is in quite a few of the Munchkins, so it's not a huge deal, where if there's an undead monster monster, you don't actually need a wandering monster to play on it. You can just add that for free. Next, we have the Explorer. Nose for loot. Draw a face-up treasure card as a reward after you help someone kill a monster. So you're going to be like, yeah, I'll help. Because they might potentially give you treasure, and then you might also get another treasure. Very, very nice. Resourcefulness. Discard a card from your hand to take one of your cards out of play and back into your hand. It cannot be used on a curse. So also, very, very useful. Mechanic, last but not least, high gear. You have an extra +1 for every gear item you are using. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, some things potentially are going to have to have gear on them. They don't say gear items. You actually have to look at the item to see if it has a gear on the picture, which is a little bit annoying. Nuts on bolting. You may discard 2 cards to withdraw as helper if you don't like the way a combat is going. That's a really fun special ability to use because you can kind of just bail on somebody at the last second, which is fun. But that, in a nutshell, is what you're going to get inside of Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe. Alrighty then, Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe from Steve Jackson Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, the game is not going to be for, well, a lot of people. If you don't like Munchkin, this is not going to change your mind. It's still too long. It still has too much to take that, and it's still very, very light. And some people are just not going to be down for that. That's just a rule of thumb. Continuing onward, this game is soaking, dripping wet with steampunk theme, and if you don't like steampunk, that might be a turn off to you. But I will say, you shouldn't let it deter you from trying out the game if you do like Munchkin. I'll tell you more about that in the pros. Also, there's 2 wonky rules in here, at least for me personally. The first one is the gear rule. That's just really odd. You have to actually look at the cards to see if they're gear cards or gear monsters. It's just like, how did that get past the people creating this game? Like, just put the little tiny word gear somewhere on the card, anywhere on the card, instead of forcing people to look at the card. Now, it does even say in the back, oh, I'm playing you the tiniest little violin because you have to look at your cards. But still, that just seems like a really odd oversight. It's a nitpick. It doesn't come up nearly as much as it sounds like it is based on me complaining about it, but still just something I want to point out. Also, it does have the Undead Rule, which is normally you need a wandering monster to add a monster into combat. However, this one has it where an undead can join any other undead. And that's just one of those little annoying, wonky rules in Munchkin that I always forget about, and we always forget about, and then somebody's like, yeah, you can do that, and then you have to look back in the rulebook, and like, ah, crap, we've been playing this wrong the whole time. It's just those little tiny rules just annoy the heck out of me sometimes about Munchkin, and that actually, some people really hate it. But needless to say, if you have another version of Munchkin, which has a lot of undead characters, you probably already know about that rule, so it's more of a nitpick than anything. So moving on to the pros, I'm going to put it like this. I hate steampunk. I think steampunk is stupid, stupid, dumb. You will not catch me ever liking steampunk. But I think this is actually one of my favorite versions of Munchkin that I've ever played. I've probably played about 7, 8, 9, 10 of them now. And you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it actually does. First and foremost, the artwork is fantastic. And the whole point of Munchkin is kind of like an airplane movie. Is to kind of make fun, to poke a little bit of fun at the topic at hand. And I enjoy the fact that they are poking fun at just how ludicrous steampunk is. Now, steampunk fans are going to eat this up because the artwork is just leaking with steampunk, and there's so many little references to this and to that based on steampunk, and they're going to love that. But people who really hate steampunk are also going to enjoy it, just because the sense of humor in this game is just overflowing, which is always a good thing. And so, yeah, I highly recommend this version of Munchkin if you like Munchkin and you're looking to add to your collection with an expansion. Highly recommend that. Also, any version Deluxe is always a good thing, adding the board with the characters, even though these little pieces come out a little bit too easily, which was slightly annoying. It's not the end of the world, but it is a nuisance first world problem. But what else did I like about the game? You know, I love the artwork, love the humor, love the components, aside from this. But yeah, it's more Munchkin. If you like Munchkin, this is a no-brainer. Check this out. It's really good. It's really funny. If you don't like Munchkin, then steer clear. So that's Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe. It's more Munchkin, but this one, great sense of humor. If you really dislike steampunk, or if you really like steampunk, I think you'll get a kick out of this. So that's Munchkin Steampunk Deluxe from Steve Jackson Games. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below, and in the comments below, let me know. Steampunk, what do you think about it? What's your favorite steampunk thing? I'd have to say Wild Wild West, the movie, not the TV show. I've never really seen the TV show with Will Smith. I think that movie got a really bad rap. I really did enjoy that movie. Granted, I haven't watched it in about 7 years, so I'll have to go back and revisit that. And I was also really out of it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, you know what I mean. But anywho, what's your favorite, or at least, yeah, what's your favorite thing? I don't know, this question just went off the rails really fast, didn't it? Let's just end this. I feel like this is just a bad relation. This review is just a bad relationship. Like, it started off on such a good note, and then I like Munchkin Steampunk so much, and I wasn't expecting to. It's like opposites attract. It's like, I hate you because you're steampunk. But I was like, actually, you have such a nice sense of humor and such a great appearance. And now I got to this end part where I'm like talking about, the question. And now it's like, oh man, I screwed up when I was saying the question, and now I'm just babbling. Yeah, this is over. This is all. Thanks for your time, YouTube.